No law was passed, no vote was taken, but your money lost value anyway. Welcome to Wheelixon, where history isn't just remembered, it's used to understand how money, power, and systems quietly break. Inflation is usually described as an economic outcome. Too much money, too little supply, a temporary imbalance. But applied financial history shows something far more important. Inflation is not just an outcome, it is a mechanism. And one of its most powerful features is this: inflation transfers wealth without requiring permission. No legislation, no referendum, no public debate. It happens automatically, silently, and continuously. And that is exactly why systems rely on it. In democratic societies, most large economic changes require consent. Taxes must be approved. Spending must be debated. Cuts must be justified. These processes are slow, visible, and politically dangerous. Inflation bypasses all of them. It changes outcomes without changing rules. To understand why inflation is such an effective transfer mechanism, we need to stop thinking of it as rising prices. Inflation is not what prices do. Inflation is what money loses. When money loses precision, every contract written in that money shifts slightly. Debts change, savings change, wages change, but no one signs a new agreement. Historically, wealth transfers were obvious: a new tax, a confiscation, a default. These events triggered resistance. People could point to a decision and say, "That hurt me." Inflation offers no such target. There is no single moment to protest, just a gradual realization that things feel harder. Applied financial history shows that inflation always benefits some groups and harms others. This is not accidental, it is structural. Consider debtors and creditors. If you owe money in fixed terms and inflation rises, your debt becomes easier to repay. If you are owed money, its real value shrinks. No contract changes, but the outcome does. This is wealth transfer number one. Now, consider wages. Most wages adjust slowly. Inflation does not. When prices rise faster than paychecks, workers lose purchasing power. Employers gain flexibility. Governments gain time. Again, no vote required. Now, consider assets. Inflation pushes money into anything perceived as stable or scarce. Real estate, stocks, hard assets. Those who already own assets see prices rise. Those who don't fall behind. The gap widens quietly. This is why inflation increases inequality without ever announcing it. It rewards positioning, not productivity. Timing, not effort. Applied financial history shows that inflation is especially effective at transferring wealth because it feels natural. People blame businesses. They blame supply chains. They blame external shocks. Rarely do they blame the mechanism itself. Governments understand this. Central banks understand this. That is why inflation is rarely described as redistribution. It is framed as a technical issue, a temporary challenge, a necessary adjustment. But when inflation persists, patterns emerge. Savings accounts fall behind. Debt burdens shrink. Asset prices rise faster than incomes. These are not random outcomes. They are the fingerprints of redistribution. And the most revealing evidence comes from how inflation is tolerated. Small increases are ignored. Moderate increases are explained. Large increases are managed. Only extreme inflation triggers reform. Until then, the system adapts. Why? Because inflation solves political problems. High debt becomes manageable. Budget pressures ease. Real obligations shrink, all without explicit action. Worse, this makes inflation uniquely valuable to systems under stress. Raising taxes risks backlash. Cutting spending risks instability. Inflation spreads pain thinly enough that resistance remains fragmented. Applied financial history shows that inflation is often used when systems face constraints they cannot openly admit. Unfunded promises, demographic pressure, structural debt. Inflation buys time. Time, however, is never free. It is purchased by eroding trust. People begin to feel disconnected from official numbers. They sense that statistics do not match experience. This gap matters. When trust erodes, behavior changes. People save differently. They speculate more. They shorten planning horizons. Society becomes reactive rather than deliberate. This is the long-term cost of inflationary transfers. They weaken the social contract without breaking it outright. Importantly, inflation does not require malicious intent. Most policymakers believe they are acting responsibly. They prioritize stability. They fear panic. They choose the least disruptive path available. Inflation appears humane compared to alternatives. But history shows that repeated reliance on inflation changes expectations. People stop expecting money to be reliable. They stop trusting long-term promises. Institutions lose moral authority. This is why inflation is often tolerated longer than it should be. Stopping it requires visible pain. Allowing it feels manageable. Until it isn't. At some point, inflation stops being a quiet transfer and becomes a visible crisis. Prices rise too quickly. confidence breaks, policy reverses abruptly, but by then, the redistribution has already occurred. Applied financial history teaches a crucial lesson here. Inflation is not neutral. It always chooses winners and losers. The only question is whether that choice is acknowledged. Understanding inflation this way changes how you read headlines. You stop asking whether inflation is good or bad. You ask, who benefits from this pace? Who loses quietly? Who has options? Those questions reveal more than any index. Inflation is powerful because it operates below the threshold of democratic resistance. It does not need approval. It does not need explanation. It only needs time. This is why inflation is one of the oldest tools of governance. From ancient empires to modern economies, the pattern repeats. When truth is too costly, dilution becomes attractive. The lesson is not that inflation is evil. The lesson is that inflation is political, even when it pretends not to be. It reshapes society without debate. If you understand that, inflation stops feeling mysterious. It starts feeling intentional, not planned in every detail, but chosen as the least disruptive option available. No vote was taken, no law was passed, but wealth moved anyway. If you want to understand money beyond headlines, subscribe to Wheelix Sun.